CCTV Camera World is proud to provide support for products purchased from our website. If you purchased your product from another vendor, please contact the vendor you purchased from for further assistance.
In this video, I'm going to show you how to modify or change the IP addresses of your Security Cameras Inc. devices that are connected to your local network. First, I'm going to open up the SCI Config Tool. The guide that this video is in will have a link to download and install the tool, and you'll need to install it to your computer. I'm going to open it by double-clicking the icon on my Windows desktop, and then it will automatically search my network for any compatible Security Cameras Inc. devices. If you connect any new devices that you're changing the IP address for, you can click on the search button again to search your network for those new devices. And it is in full screen. If you want to adjust the size of the window, you can come up here to the top right, click and drag to resize it. And then last but not least, before you change the IP address of any of your devices, you will want to go over to the right-hand side and make sure that the initialized tag or column says true for the device that you're trying to change the IP address for. If you haven't done that, then it may prevent you from changing the IP address of your device, in which case you will need to follow our video and initialize your camera with a password. I've already done that with my camera, so to change its IP address, I'm going to first click and select it. Brings up a menu at the bottom of the software, and I will need to enter in the password that I set for my camera. So I'm just using our factory default. It's worth noting that if you just got your camera and pulled it out of the box, there will be a label on the top of the box that tells you what the camera's current IP address, username, and password is. And again, this will be the current password that you set on your camera in the initialization process. Then you will need to enter in a IP address. So it says start IP. Basically, it's saying start IP. If I were modifying multiple devices, it would just do them incrementally. So if I were to start at 1.109, then it would do it increment. However, first, I need to make sure that 1.109 is even open on my network. In order to do that, I'm going to come down here to my Windows button. And there's a number of ways you can get to the command prompt, but I'm just going to go ahead and type in command after clicking the Windows button in my Windows computer. So I'm going to click on command prompt to open command prompt. And then there are a couple of ways to find your IP address scheme and test for IP addresses in your network. First, to find the scheme, we're going to do a command called ipconfig. That's IPCONFIG, and hit enter. So we'll see here my computer's IP address, so I know that this one isn't open, is 192.168.1.233. Or I could do a trace route, which is TRACERT, RT short for route, and hit enter. I need to do an IP address, so I'm going to do Google's IP address of 8.8.8, do a trace route, and then I can see my first hop in my trace route is my router, so that's my IP address scheme for my network. So essentially what I need to do is take that 192.168.1. and ping that. So once again, I selected 1.109 and do a ping. So it's trying to ping or send data to that IP address within my network, and it says destination host unreachable, which means that there is no device there for data to flow back to my computer from. So in which case, I know that that is an open IP address. If I were modifying or setting multiple cameras, then I would need to go down and do ping 192.168.1.110. Again, just iterating it by one, and then hit enter. So I would know if I were configuring two cameras that I would have two open IP addresses, 109 and 110. And I can configure those two devices to that. However, I do only have one device, so I don't need to necessarily worry about that. And I've selected and checked to make sure that the 109 address is open. Again, the first three sets of numbers for your local network may be different, and opening up the command prompt is a very important step for understanding what your network is. Next, we need to set a media port, and you can just copy and paste and transcribe the numbers from the actual entry down here. You do not need to change the media port or web port. Doing so will lock yourself out of the camera. So media port is 9000, web port is 80. clicking between these different text boxes, I can set those text boxes. I do need to set my gateway. Now, once again, this is where the config tool comes into play. And with the trace route, the first entry was my gateway. That's my router or modem. And then when using IP config, it's listed there as my default gateway. So that is my gateway. So I need to manually type that in here, 192.168.1.1. And then the net mask can also be found from the IP config command. So the subnet mask for my network is 255.255.255.0. So I need to transcribe that into the tool. And then last but not least, click the modify button. At the top, we're going to look at the status. It says waiting after I clicked modify. Within a few moments, it should say succeed. All right, after about 5 to 10 seconds, it did say operation succeed. And now if I go ahead and click the search button to refresh my list and let it search my network, the camera is now on 1.109. And just for an extra helpful tip, if the password that you set doesn't work, or you've connected your camera to an NVR and then back into a network, the password will either be the factory default of 10 lowercase I, capital L, then all lowercase txyh, or the other factory default, admin123, period. Again, that's ADMIN 123, period. The last thing to note is, if I were to select this camera, I could also set the net mode to DHCP, which means that the camera will automatically get an IP address from my router. Now, the problem with this is, if you have it connected or added to an NVR or DVR is if your modem or router or power goes out or reboots, then the camera may get a different IP address within your network. So we do recommend setting a static IP address within your network to avoid some of those issues. Hopefully this video helps you change the IP address for your Security Cameras Inc. camera or recorder on your local network using the SCI Config Tool. Thank you for watching.
If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.